Hello, people. How's it going? Well, this is the part two of my introduction that I have taken a month to get around to doing again. This is not going to happen anymore. I'm sorry. I know it should have taken this long to get back to doing my Bible study on the Book of Acts, but life being what it is, got in the way. So I'm going to once again. I'm sorry, I was waiting for an important message. It isn't here yet. It's fine, but I think I think studying the Book of Acts is important because it is the history of the church. Whether the church likes it or not, the Book of Acts is history. I know a lot of people don't like history anymore for some reason, but I do. To understand where the Book of Acts is, the Roman Empire. This is an excellent book, by the way. You got to remember, the Gospels and the Book of Acts take place during the reign of the Emperor Augustus. That one is the Emperor Augustus, 31 BC to 14 AD. Tiberius, 1480 to 37 AD. Then comes Gaius. He did not like being called Caligula. His real name was Gaius. From 37 to 41 AD. Then we have Claudius, 41 to 54 AD. Then we have Nero, 54 to 68 AD. These are the emperors that ruled the Roman Empire during the life of Jesus, during the age of the apostles, until the Book of Acts finishes with the first imprisonment of Paul under Nero. What's odd and what's funny is there's only two emperors that are not named in the Book of Acts, and that's Caligula, Gaius, and Nero. I mean, you have to understand that the Roman Empire was this amazing. Yeah, it was a war machine, but it also cultivated a lot of things. It cultivated the Roman roads, made it possible for the Apostle Paul and the other apostles to preach throughout the known Roman world. Without those roads, the Apostle Paul wouldn't have gotten very far. If it weren't for the diaspora of the Jews throughout the Mediterranean world, there wouldn't be any synagogues for Paul to go to. The reason there were synagogues all over the places, well, the Jews had been kicked out. They didn't want to come back, a lot of them, so they created their own synagogues. The Apostle Paul went throughout the Roman Empire. There were synagogues all over the place. I mean, it also begins with Herod the Great, who was Roman Emperor, the Judean king, when Jesus was born. I mean, this is the time of Herod Agrippa I, which is the great grandson of Herod, not his son, his great grandson. He's the emperor. I keep saying emperor. He is the king during the early stages of the church. He's the one who had James, the brother of John, beheaded. Then we had Herod Agrippa, who Paul dealt with. We have the stories of. The Roman Empire is very interesting and it's very fascinating. As much as there is the brutality of the Roman Empire, there is the fact that they were fantastic engineers. They created an empire and road system. They kept it maintained. They policed it. I mean, the Apostle Paul and all the apostles would not have been able to do anything unless the Roman Empire had been great engineers, which is what they were. They were great engineers. Yes, I know I keep saying war machine. They were a great war machine, but they are also great engineers, great road builders. I mean, this is also the time, remember correctly off the top of my head, also the Romans decided to invade England around 54 or something. I don't know for Claudius. Yeah, in the 1500s. I'm going to do this. I mean, I don't know if you can see this, but that's the Roman Empire. That's the Roman Empire. I mean, the Roman Empire was huge. I mean, we're talking about the entire river basin, Mediterranean basin here. I don't know why though. Okay, there we go. I mean, when Rome invaded England in the 50s AD, I mean, and there are reports, of course, some of the apostles got there, but it's very doubtful they got there. My hair is sticking out. I mean, I like this one, so we're going to look it up. So I'm not going to sit here and act like a moron when I know I'm trying to do something. Let's see. Roman Empire. I mean, or Julius Caesar failed to invade England and take it over. Claudius didn't fail. Let's check real fast here. But I mean, the Roman Empire gave Christianity a chance to breathe, to exist. If you do read the book of Acts, you'll realize Luke's treatment of Roman officials is very diplomatic. He never paints them in a bad light. Because although most Roman officials were not these bloodlusting monsters. A lot of them were very good at their job, and some of them even became Christians. If you read the accounts of Acts, they become believers. You have to find extra sources to find that information. But, let's see. Let's see. Well, where are you? Why am I having a hard time? Okay, I know you're here. Let's see what number. I'm not sure why I'm having a hard time finding it. But under Claudius, they invade Britain, and it's tradition anyway that Jude, maybe Simon got to Britain. I wouldn't call Britain at that time. But, you know, I I think that to understand church history, you have to understand Roman history, the Roman Empire. And yeah, I mean, Caligula is never mentioned. I call it Caligula because everybody here used to call him Caligula. His real name is Gaius. His nickname is Caligula. But I mean, the book of Luke was written either for the church in general or a Roman official. Luke's Greek is very Septuagint, which means it was written in the same Greek style that the Bible the Old Testament was written in during the Nestorian and Nestorian. I mean, I don't think you can give up. I think you need to understand Greek history. You need to understand the Hellenization of Judaism and the Hellenization of the Roman world. The Romans loved the Greeks. To be a Roman is to be a cultured Roman. You would have to read and read and write and learn the language of Greece. Greek was the international language of trade, the international language of diplomacy, the international language of a lot of things. Because Latin was a lot harder to learn than Greek was. I mean, I think people always say, the ignorance of the people back then. No, they may not have known Greek, which is why they would have called them ignorant. I think there was at least one apostle who was probably a Hellenistic Jew. And it would be Philip. Because in Scripture, Greeks come to Philip during Jesus' last week. Let's see, let's find this quickly. Let's see. John chapter 12, verse 20. And there were certain Greeks among them that came to worship at the feast. The same came therefore to Philip, which was of Bethsaida of Galilee, and desired of him so he would see Jesus. Philip cometh and telleth Andrew, and Andrew and Philip go to Jesus. Philip was Philip's name is Greek. It's Macedonian, and he takes after Philip of Macedon, the father of Alexander the Great. Philip was probably a Hellenistic Jew. He probably knew he was bilingual. Matthew would have had to have been bilingual. He was a tax collector. He had to deal with other people who didn't necessarily speak Aramaic or Hebrew. They spoke Greek. Tax collectors had to be educated. So Matthew was probably educated. He was probably bilingual. Philip was educated. He probably was also bilingual. The Romans, as much as people think of the Romans as this conquering empire, As I've said before, they were great. They were great builders. After they were done destroying you and defeating you, they would rebuild things in their image, but they were still great builders. But this is the Roman Empire that the apostles had to go throughout the world and preach the gospel. And for the most part, the Romans didn't really pay much attention to them. They weren't teaching anything seditious. They were being religious, so they left them alone for the most part. As long as you did not preach, sedition or preach, the slaves should be free, you'll be fine. Why Paul never did it. Paul did it though. If you ever read the book of Philemon, that is a track against slavery. The Romans just didn't figure it out. But this is the era of Herod the Great. At least the birth of Jesus and stuff. This is the era of Herod the Second, Herod Agrippa the Second, or Herod the Second, his grandson. Herod Agrippa was his great grandson. But you get a sense of the atmosphere of the place by reading Roman history and Greek history. I would consider myself, if I were there, a Hellenistic Jew. I would not be a very good Orthodox Jew. I would not be an Apostle Paul Jew, though I sometimes think the Apostle Paul may have been more Hellenistic than he would like to admit to. Because at Athens, he quoted pagan authors. He quoted Greek authors. So he had to have known something. He had to have read them somewhere. That's just my theory. But to understand the Roman world is to really understand why Christianity was able to do as much as it did in the short span of time it did. You have to really understand that the Roman Empire really didn't care all that much about Christians. They were just another Jewish sect preaching about some dead guy who supposedly rose from the dead. They didn't care. As long as you didn't talk treason or sedition or rebellion, they would have cared less. They wouldn't have cared. The Jewish leaders cared because unfortunately they saw their power slipping and they didn't like it. In a lot of ways, the Jews were really being used and manipulated by the devil. They were just too blind and too full of pride. It's just the way humans are. It's the way we are. But studying Roman history, I think, is important. I think it's one of the first fundamental things you should do to understand the world of the very early church. To understand why it spread so rapidly. Because there were lots of pagan gods and lots of idols and this, that, and the other. And if you'll notice, they don't. By then, most people were really not believers in those things as much as you think they were. Not really. They were on the surface. They probably were. The show of look at me, Diana, wonderful. But probably deep down inside, probably not so much. The Roman Empire. Jesus was born at the right time. He was born at the right time where synagogues were all over the place. The Roman roads could take you everywhere and anywhere you wanted to go. And they did. But yeah, I would read this book. This one is both basically about the western half of the Roman Empire. It's a very good book, by the way. I don't know why I can't find the invasion of Britain all of a sudden, but apparently I can. I don't know why. Maybe I'm looking at the wrong place. But it's got little stuff actually. Got little bios of the different emperors. It's funny. I don't know. I'm trying to show this map one more time. The Roman Empire. Oh, there you go. The Roman Empire was huge. That's why the gospel got as far as it did, because the Roman Empire was the entire Mediterranean Sea. See, my problem is I like Roman history. And I think to understand church history, you need to study Greek history, Roman history, basically. This is another good book, as I already showed. I'm going to probably do one more introduction, something a little more coherent than this one. But, I had planned on doing 3 introductory videos before getting down to the actual study of the Bible. But there's some other books I also want to show, so I'll do that. But I'm sorry, I know I keep emphasizing this over and over and over, but I think part of the problem is I think the church really doesn't understand its own history because it doesn't understand history itself. I mean, and it is frustrating to me because I love history so much, and I like history, and I like exploring the different aspects of it, and this, that, and the other. And I think most people just want to be told dates, names, and places. To me, that's not history. That's not even learning anything. That's just dates, names, and places. I mean, what was the role of Augustus? Why were the Jews allowed to do what they were doing in Jerusalem? Why were they being allowed to keep their religion? Why were they being allowed to do sacrifices? Because the Romans said, okay, as long as you're not going to rebel, you can do whatever you want. How was Augustus? Augustus liked the Jews. He was very favorable to them. Even Tiberius was. Even Tiberius really didn't care. As long as they didn't rebel, I don't care what you're doing over there. I'm too busy avoiding the Senate, living on Capri and doing things I should be doing. Now, Caligula came pretty close to something he really, really, really should have thought about doing, and that was putting an idol in the temple. He was going to do it, too. Yeah, Caligula, whatever you want to call him, Gaius. I guess everybody knows who Caligula is, so I say that. But he did. He was going to put an idol in there. Then came Claudius, who kicked the Jews out of Rome for some particular reason. This is when we get Priscilla and Aquila and the Apostle Paul and stuff. And then he invades Rome. He invades England. He manages to do that. I mean, Julius Caesar failed. He had to fail sometimes. And then Nero, whose name is never mentioned, but we know who he is. This is where the book of Acts ends in the first imprisonment of the Apostle Paul. I mean, this is a cool book, though. Sorry. I get easily distracted. Let's see, maybe we got a chart here. Oh, I keep trying to find some decent pictures, some different photographs, and I can't really find any. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Okay. Yes, I know. They're naming something I refuse to say this, so let's see. Let's see. It even talks about those things. No, nothing 80. Sorry. I was hoping they would do 80, but anyway, I think the Christians understand. Brightness on that. No, that's better. But yeah, I mean, the Roman Empire. I think without the Roman Empire, Christianity never would have succeeded as fast as it did. I mean, those Romans. I know I keep bringing it up. The Romans were excellent engineers. They were excellent engineers. They knew how to build roads, and they knew how to build aqueducts. And that is true. All roads lead to Rome. And there was law. If there was a Roman road near your place, it was your job to maintain it. And you better maintain it or else. Romans did not mess around with their roads. They were maintained. The synagogue system did begin in the Sporia between the Hellentum, between Alexander the Great and the Roman Empire showing up. It's where the synagogues came from. It's where the Pharisees came from. The Sadducees came from. It's where the Essenes came from. It's where the Zealots came from, too. The middle of that, I'm off topic a little bit. See, this is why I like history. It's all connected. It's all the Roman Empire, Greek culture, Judaism, history. It's all connected to me. It's all connected. It all has connections to something else. And the people in the Bible are fascinating people. people outside the Bible are fascinating because they had an influence either directly or indirectly with the biblical people. Now I am going to do one more probably intro. Hopefully I am going. Well, hopefully, but my bird feeder has a visitor. Sparrow. Sparrows like my bird feeder. But I'm going to do one more introduction, and then get off my lazy butt and do the actual Bible study in the Book of Acts. But I want to mention there's certain books I'm trying to find. That's part of the other problem I'm having. Is there's certain books I'm trying to find that I want to recommend, and I can't find them. I'm just gonna have to order them. I mean, see what happens. Oh darn! I gotta order a book. Oh no, that's just terrible. Anyway, but yeah, I don't expect people to like history like I do. I don't expect them to understand how I see so many connections with the Roman Empire and Judea and the Galilee and Greece, and to me they're all connected. They're all connected because they all had an impact on the church, good and bad, and somewhere in the middle, but they all had an impact. That's why I think studying Roman history is very important. Studying Greek history is very important. Studying Jewish history is very important. Understanding why this is so important. But anyway, I don't want to make it too long. But anyway, hopefully, get off my lazy butt. I will have the third intro next week. And then I will actually literally start this Bible study. Anyway, I might even do some little mini Bible studies and other things too. But this right now is my primary one I want to do. So I appreciate anybody who watches this, puts up with it, and hopefully gets something out of it. Wants to learn. Comment, subscribe, share, like. Behave yourselves, people, because you know I'm not going to. Now it's too bright. Now it's better. It's cold today. Cold here in Minnesota. And the sun comes out. Sort of. Alright. Later.